Chapter 10. Chilvmar? He was so proud now. Very, very proud. Chilvmar, the great elven necromancer, who was friends with the currently imprisoned Cormaxo, the tax-evading, dry-cleaning, mogul political dissident. He really was so proud at this moment. More proud than he'd ever been of anything he'd ever made in all his magical research and development efforts. He had just watched an orphan boy he kept in his dungeon transform over the course of a few days from an innocent little elf playing with toys and coloring books into a vicious flesh-eating undead monster with the power to infect others and also turn them into undead monsters. Zombification had been achieved by many necromancers before, but few had crafted a zombification potion so insidious with great potential to spread rapidly throughout a population. The former child had been bitten in his sleep by a rat, which Chilvmar had turned into a zombie via feeding it water tainted with his potion the night before. All warm-blooded creatures were susceptible to the magical zombification that Chilvmar had created, whether directly from any non-trace quantity of the original necromantic potion, or secondarily through being killed or bitten by an infected creature. The amount of gold that Chilvmar could sell something as devastating as this for on the superweapons market was extraordinary. This invention could be what would allow Chilvmar to finally retire and leave this particular elven land to one that was warmer and had better beaches, kind of like what you'd find in Cabo or Cancun. Retirement was a Jimmy Buffett fantasy for him, a vacation of good weather and relaxation. Chilvmar dreamed of a beautiful chateau and naked men or women or other gendered people massaging him as he stared at the sun and smelled refreshing salt water. There would be cocktails too, alcoholic drinks of splendor and joy. The only thing stopping him from selling this potion for massive quantities of gold right now was the lack of a large-scale demonstration. Sure, he could show a prospective buyer one of the specimens he kept in his dungeon, but it would really be proof that his potion had the power to cause a city-destroying catastrophe, if not national emergency, that would make the value skyrocket. Once people knew they could cause a chain reaction of zombification, the potential uses in scorched earth warfare and terrorism would be limitless. Chilvmar was anxious to hear back from the mercenary sorcerer he had hired to break his friend Cormaxo out of prison. Cormaxo was a bit of a nut, and Chilvmar just knew he would be the perfect candidate to unleash the zombie plague. It took an especially callous man who had just recently been wronged to do something so ruthless. As it turned out, Chilvmar was actually the one who informed the police about Cormaxo's illicit activities, so that Cormaxo would go to jail and get angry enough to be willing to attack the city in such a horrible manner. Chilvmar had already inoculated himself with the potion's immunity charm and planned to leave the area as quickly as he could once he had given the sample to Cormaxo and the statutory rapist friend of his. Chilvmar looked at the crystal ball he was using to communicate with Cormaxo and saw that the last message Cormaxo had sent was some ridiculous boast about how amazing a duo they would be in committing terrorism. They didn't need to be amazing, just effective, and Chilvmar trusted they would be, because being in prison or any kind of confined situation does strange things to people. It gives them a special kind of energy and work ethic you wouldn't find in people who've been free their whole lives. A kind of vicious and cold desire to shake off the taint of being in a cage. Chilvmar tapped his crystal ball android tablet again, so that instead of his conversation with Cormaxo, it showed him the cell in his dungeon containing the undead fiend he had just made out of the orphan boy, whom he actually had kidnapped a while back. This zombie was an obvious exception to the psychological effects of being locked up, perfectly content to either be locked in a cage or out on the streets trying to eat people, a creature with no real mind or sense of surroundings, a true biological robot.